When you think of a band with a massive catalog of 10-minute epics, sci-fi fantasies, and blistering radio hits, what do you picture as their most important song? For Rush, the answer isn't what you'd expect. It's not one of their complex orchestrations or their biggest chart topper. Instead, it's a 5.5-minute anthem for anyone who's ever felt like they were on the outside looking in. It's a song that perfectly nails the quiet desperation of being trapped by your surroundings, a feeling that plays out in high school hallways, sterile shopping malls, and on the manicured lawns of suburbia. For so many, it was more than just a song. It was a lifeline. Filmmaker Michael Moore even told the band he believed the song had saved lives, and honestly, he was probably right. At the very least, it comforted countless people who felt alienated, assuring them they weren't alone. This is the story of how Subdivisions became a timeless masterpiece, not just by chronicling suburban angst, but by turning the very nature of modern conformity into an art. By the summer of 1982, Rush had decamped to the mountains of Quebec, Canada. For guitarist Alex Lifeson, it was a tipping point. The band were mixing the opening track for their upcoming album Signals, and at the time the music scene was undergoing a dramatic shift. Guitars, along the forefront of rock music, were beginning to lose their dominance as new electronic sounds emerged. Synthesizers, once on the periphery, were becoming central to the sound of the era. Even Rush felt the pull of the changing musical landscape, especially Geddy Lee, the band's singer and bassist, who openly described himself as a fan of synthesizers, and he had been weaving them into Rush's sound ever since their 1977 album, A Farewell to Kings. However, for Alex Lifeson, Subdivisions was the moment when keyboards began to overshadow guitars, and he felt that the band's sound had started to shift too far away from its roots. Lifeson remembers his frustration during the mixing sessions, recalling, "There I was listening to the track and thinking, where's the guitar? I'm not usually one to make a fuss, but something felt off. I nudged the guitar level up, hoping to set things right, but Terry Brown, our producer, just grinned at me and dialed it back down. The instrument I played was barely audible, which just didn't sit well with me." For a group known for keeping things civil, this quiet back and forth over the mix was unusually tense, but the shift was unmistakable. Subdivisions, with its bold synthesizer presence as the lead track on Signals, signaled a significant stylistic pivot for Rush. Gone were their epic prog rock roots, and their place was a sound more attuned to the new wave currents of bands like The Police and Ultravox. Hints of Rush's evolving style were already noticeable on their 1981 release Moving Pictures, where Alex Lifeson's guitar work intertwined seamlessly with Geddy Lee's increasingly dominant synthesizers. Boosted by the album's success, the duo took advantage of breaks during their tour to start working on new material for their next project. It was during sound checks the band found time to experiment with fresh ideas. They'd run through a couple songs, but they'd also break out old cassette tapes full of rough sketches that became songs on their subsequent releases. One of those songs was Subdivisions, with Lifeson recalling, "It's a strong song. It's just the mix that I didn't like. I guess I fought for my guitar rights for years after that." The song's lyrics, penned by drummer Neil Peart, dealt with the members growing up in the suburbs. The song's video was even shot in and around the city of Toronto. To understand the power of Subdivisions, you have to see the world it paints. Peart was starting to shift his focus from the cosmic themes of their earlier work. He was looking inward but also outward at the world that he and his bandmates came from. He called the song an exploration of the background from which all of us had sprung, a nod to their shared upbringing in the suburbs of Toronto. He admitted to Rolling Stone, "I didn't believe yet that I could put something real into a song. Subdivisions happened to be an anthem for a lot of people who grew up under those circumstances, and from then on, I realized what I most wanted to put in a song was human experience." The song opens on a landscape of chilling precision. This isn't just setting a scene, it's a diagnosis. The suburbs are framed as a calculated comfort zone, a buffer meant to keep the chaos of the city and the wild unknown at bay. But in that quest for safety, something vital gets lost. It's a critique of suburban life as a place where uniformity is king, and as the lyrics say, the future is pre-decided. Peart, who was a lifelong reader of adventure and science fiction, saw those stories as his own escape route from the confines of his youth. The song perfectly captures that restless dream, that feeling simmering just under the surface of those quiet, perfect lawns. It's a universal feeling for anyone who's ever stared out their bedroom window, convinced that the world was happening somewhere else without them. The lyrics brilliantly dissect social lines, the way we sort people by neighborhood and income, and how that sorting builds invisible walls. Title itself, Subdivisions, is a clever double entendre, pointing not just to housing developments, but to the ways we are divided from each other. If the verses paint a picture of a sterile environment, the chorus drops us right into the social battlefield. This is where the song lays out its core message with brutal honesty. In the high school halls, in the shopping malls, conform or be cast out. In the basement bars, in the back of cars, be cool or be cast out. This isn't just about peer pressure, it's a law of social survival. The song argues that in these kind of controlled environments, individuality isn't just discouraged, it's actually a liability. And that message, it became an anthem for a generation of outsiders. It speaks directly to the deep-seated adolescent fear of being different, of being rejected for not living up to the unspoken standard. Pierre himself confirmed the song was extremely autobiographical. He talked about being a physically awkward kid who couldn't play hockey, which for him was a cardinal sin in Canada, which also cast him as a social pariah. That personal sting of rejection is what gave these lyrics their profound and authentic power. This is what elevates the song beyond the simple social commentary and makes it deeply personal. It gives a voice to the internal battle of anyone who feels out of step with the world. The line, "Nowhere is the dreamer or the misfit so alone," perfectly capturing the bizarre isolation of being surrounded by people, yet feeling completely invisible. It's a feeling that hits home whether you grew up in the suburbs, a small town like myself, or a huge city, because the pressure to just fit in is universal. But Subdivisions and Signals marked a shift in Rush's career, and not necessarily a good one in the eyes of some of their fans. Their subsequent 80s albums followed the same keyboards forward path, although they hit more of an even balance between guitars and synths. Still, Signals remains one of Rush's most divisive albums in their back catalog, even if attitudes towards it have mellowed out in the years since it was released. But ultimately, both the record and Subdivisions itself embody progressive rock's boundary-pushing spirit just as much as their earlier works like Rush's 2112 or Moving Pictures had. I guess you could stay where you are and do the same thing over and over again, but that's not the kind of band we are, said Leifson. He added, "Progress is important to us. We always need to go somewhere else. We always wanted to evolve." Of course, the lyrical genius of Subdivisions is only half the story. The music itself is a masterclass in driving the theme home. That opening riff, a powerful and ominous synth line, immediately sets a cold, almost robotic mood. The soundscape is the perfect mirror of the geometric order of the lyrics. Even Neil Peart's drumming, famous for its precision, feels almost machine-like, adding to a sense of a pre-programmed soulless world. The guitar, traditionally the most organic and rebellious voice in rock, is being squeezed out by the cold machinery of modern life, and that's the whole point. Even Geddy Lee's vocals are delivered with a certain distance. The result is a fusion of prog rock and new wave that sounds stark, echoing, and completely intentional. Subdivisions was never Rush's biggest commercial hit, but it did climb to a respectable number 5 on the US mainstream rock tracks chart, and it became an absolute fan favorite. Its real importance isn't measured in sales figures, but in the deep and lasting bond it forged with its audience. It became an anthem for the thinkers, the socially awkward, the dreamers, the very people who often felt left out of the mainstream. The song hit so hard because it was honest, it didn't offer some easy fix. It just looked the pain and frustration of being an outsider square in the eye, and in doing that, it made people feel less alone. The music video, which took the unmistakable look of an early Degrassi High episode, only helped cement the song's story. It followed a young, alienated kid trying to navigate the bleak landscapes of high school in suburbia, giving everyone a visual shorthand for the song's themes. The song proved to be a pivot from their epic tales of distant galaxies to the equally epic struggles happening right here on Earth. So why is Subdivisions their most important song? It isn't their most complex, their most famous, or their most technically dazzling. It's their most human. It's the moment that the band turned their incredible talent for analysis inward, dissecting a feeling that is both intensely personal and staggeringly universal. It's a song that validates the experience of anyone who's ever felt like they just didn't fit. It's a critique of a world that's too often values conformity over creativity and comfort over courage. While a song like 2112 built a universe for fans to escape to, Subdivisions gave them the tools to understand the world they were already in. It told them that their feelings of alienation were real, their dreams of something more were valid, and that even in the most isolating places, they weren't truly alone. And that's a message far more powerful than any guitar solo or drum fill could ever be. So what does Subdivisions mean to you? Did you connect with this message growing up? Share your comments down below, guys, and we'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.